I can still hear her budgies singing by the window. Mama Mary loved her birds and filling her small home with the sound of life and laughter. We would gather there Sunday afternoons after church. Sundays were marked by itchy tights, Sunday school, and lunch at Mama Mary and Baba Hannes's. Baba would stop to get fresh bread at the bakery by their apartment. The building they lived in was old and smelled of curry and Mr. Clean. It primarily housed immigrants, some from India, others were from Iran or Iraq like my grandparents. A modge-podge of people who one way or another found their way into this old apartment complex outside of Toronto. I can still see it. The big pot of dolma on the table and the stacks of photos she'd develop and put on the coffee table of family from all over the world. Baba Hannes sitting outside on the balcony singing as pigeons gathered around. I used to beg my parents to let me sleep over. She'd spoil me and let me stay up way past my bedtime. One night when I stayed over, I remember waking up from a bad dream and crying out to her. She quickly came into my room, crawled into bed with me until I felt safe enough to fall asleep. That's just who she was. She was always there, present, steady, loyal, always looking after others and caring for their needs before her own. It's all she ever knew. Her dream was to be a nun, but she ended up getting married at 14 and had her first child at 18. 7 kids later, Mary became affectionately known as Mama Mary, a mother and homemaker devoted to loving Jesus and serving her family. They moved to Canada in 1990, leaving the warmth and familiarity of Iraq so they could be with their families and start anew, free from the oppression of war. She was 57 when she moved here and barely spoke any English. Her kids, now grown, had their own lives, and yet she still loved looking after them and my grandfather. When I was in grade school, she started to lose her sight. It made cooking really hard until it was impossible. My grandfather got sick with dementia. Each time we'd visit, I could see him losing a grip on reality. Still, his cheerful spirit remained. Losing him was hard for all of us, but especially Mama Mary. She was with him for over 60 years, and a part of her died with him. The years that followed, she began to need more help, and my aunt lovingly took her in. Each time I saw her, she looked more frail. Life was taking its toll on her body and mind. It was as if she was frozen in time and the world kept moving without her. One night, I stayed over their house. It was the middle of the night when I heard her crying out. I knew she had these episodes in her state, so I laid there and waited to see if it would stop. Then I remembered when I was a little girl, and I was afraid in the middle of the night, how I cried out for help, and without hesitation, she was there for me. I rushed down to her, and she was still crying when I got there. I gently put my hand on her shoulder and said her name, Mama Mary, it's okay, I'm here. She calmed down and reached for my hand, holding it tightly. I crawled into bed with her and she rested her head on my shoulder. She began to sleep, and I wept. The next morning, my aunt asked if I had gone to Mama Mary at night, and I said I did. Mama Mary told her she was scared at night, and a kind young woman came to her and comforted her. In 2019, I visited her at the nursing home. She was not well. She didn't know who I was, but she was happy I was there, and she begged me not to go. She kissed me goodbye, and I kissed her. When I walked away, she called out for me. I ran back in for one more hug before I left, and that was it. A few months later, there was a COVID outbreak in the nursing home, and dozens of the residents died, including Mama Mary. Only 10 people could attend the funeral. She was buried in Ontario with my grandfather. The borders were closed and we couldn't go. I watched her funeral in my living room on a TV. It felt wrong and strange for such a beautiful life to end so unceremoniously. But as much as I thought she deserved more, I knew how much better off she was on the other side of heaven, where she could see and no longer feel like an immigrant, but she was home. I once heard that a female baby is born with all her eggs she will ever have in her lifetime. So when your grandmother was carrying your mother in her womb, she was also carrying you. It's mysteriously beautiful and so fitting to think that long before I existed, I was with her, and she carried me and so many others who live on through her. That's just how it goes. While you're here, you feel infinite. And all at once, life can feel beautiful and cruel, stopping for no one. We get on this merry-go-round and we get off. We were never meant to stay. And while we may not roam the earth forever, the way we made people feel, the way we cared for and carried others will far outlive us. When the budgies sing, when my baby girl cries out to me, when I hear the Gospel of John, I see her fingerprints, and that will always make me smile.
That was like the first time I feel like I actually let myself properly just like experience it without editing it or whatever. So
Really?
yeah, I mean, like I've listened to it, wrote the essay, and then did all that a few times. But yeah,
It was also just so beautiful to see you honor. Like our culture just totally does not honor the elderly. It's really beautiful.
I appreciate it.
So she passed away what year?
It was 20. When was COVID? 2020?
2020.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's
Which
terrible.
feels like yesterday, but also
so long ago.
long ago, I know. Yeah, it was interesting because I wrote that essay several years ago. And because I didn't get to go to her funeral, because I didn't get to properly grieve and experience that.
Closure.
Yeah, I didn't have that closure. I let myself like journal and then I came up with that essay, but I never I just held it to myself. I never even shared it with my mom because she's like, I can't hear that. It's just gonna be too much. But it was so therapeutic for me to let myself remember. And I mean, she was such a big part of my life, especially in childhood, that it, like I said in the essay, like it just felt so wrong for it to just end and then never to have that. Like, I'm so thankful that I went and saw her at the nursing home. Like, I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah.
But didn't expect, what was going to come just a couple months later, the way the world just shut down.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
So yeah, it was really good to have that. It was very therapeutic to write that. And then, you and I were talking because your grandfather had passed away recently. And we were just talking about how like life is it's so beautiful when the loved ones around you are together and are all alive, and like the things you take for granted, like even just our parents or our grandparents or whatever, whoever it might be. And so with Thanksgiving just around the corner, we were thinking about how can we just talk about this topic and the reality of grief and gratitude coexisting. And the holidays definitely can bring this out and heighten those feelings. And you're going to make me cry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm like, why don't we have tissue right now?
I do.
Gosh.
I know.
She was prepared.
Thank you.
I was like, just in case.
I'm so sorry. I was like,
I'm
don't
sorry.
make
Listen,
her
we're
cry.
talking
Jen.
about grief. It's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
And that's it, is like this holidays can be so, obviously they're so beautiful, but they're so bittersweet for a lot of people. As a kid, I remember you don't think about it. You're just like, yeah, it's the holidays. Like, why don't we get presents and I'm going to eat turkey. But then as you grow older, you get more perspective. You lose people. Things happen. It's more complicated. So for majority, I think, of people, it is bittersweet. There's a lot of melancholy that surrounds these times. And like the first, Thanksgiving, the first Christmas, the first birthday, the first Mother's Day, the first Father's Day without these people that we've loved and lost can be so painful. And yet we still have to go and present ourselves and celebrate. And it's just complicated, So we wanted in this episode to give space for that, for us to share a little bit of our own experiences, and hopefully for you listening, to give you space to know it's okay to not be okay going into this Thanksgiving or Christmas season. It's the beauty of life, is that it's a mixed bag. And when we're in pain and we're grieving, it's because we loved. Yeah. Most likely it's because we love deeply, right?
Yeah.
So just to segue a little bit, I'd love to hear your guys's a little bit about our experiences. So how have you guys ever experienced a season of loss? It could be of a loved one, a friendship, or even a version of yourself.
That's so good.
And how did it shape the way that you value people now?
Yeah, it's interesting because I have been very blessed. I haven't lost anyone really close to me. I've had family members, grandparents pass, but it wasn't how she was so involved in your life in close proximity for a long time. And so I'm very fortunate. And to be honest, I think when I was younger, there was a part of me that really thought about this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a bittersweet thing with me and the Lord, where it would exactly what you're saying. The idea of grieving someone really close to me made me really grateful for them.
Mm-hmm.
It was like this like pretty regular thing that would bring me to my knees, like with the Lord. And I just would think about like, oh my gosh, like I'm so thankful for my family.
Yeah.
Like one day I'm not going to have them. And I think more recently in my life, I just choose to avoid it. I just avoid the thought, which isn't healthy because every day we're just getting older. And oh my gosh, dude. So our anniversary was just the other day. And
happy belated anniversary.
Thank you. And so it's been 9 years. So 9 years have gone by since we got married. Not only are we like, well, shoot, we don't look even close to the same, but like looking at our family members and being like, oh my gosh, like I just tend to really avoid the thought. When I can't even with my parents.
I know.
And my in-laws.
Same.
I'm just like, yep. Like, what good is it going to do me? Right?
Yeah,
I know.
That's how I feel.
Like to some degree, I think it will make me appreciate the time that I have.
Yeah.
I think there is that balance of, okay, when my dad is coming over and hanging out with me and my daughter, okay, and being like, let me be in this moment. Let me not be distracted because I don't know how many more days I'm going to get of this, right?
Yeah.
So it is this hard thing that there's a level that I avoid because why would I grieve them while they're here?
Yeah.
But there's another level that I'm like, but I literally don't know how much longer I have you.
Yeah.
So I have to like, it forces me to be present in the moment. So with that being said, there is just a lot of that type of like thought of grief of the future.
Yeah.
There are nights more recently as I've been getting older and watching my parents get older and now down to one grandparent. And like you mentioned, just losing my grandfather.
Yeah.
It's like the thought will come and like I'll look at my phone and we have these like faraway bags, which are basically bags that shut down all the signals from your phone. I'll put it in there because it's supposed to like help you sleep better at night.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But I always think back.
Cool.
Yeah. I always think back to the night that my dad called me because my grandfather passed in the middle of the night. And so I let him know. I was like, don't wait till the morning. Just call me, because he was getting sick. And so I remember like waking up. Something just woke me up in the middle of the night. And I looked at my phone and my dad had called. And it was weird because like, but you don't know. But also my parents butt dial me all the time. But then I'm like, okay, it's 2:30 in the morning. So I remember calling and, having that moment. And so like ever since then, there's been like this angst before I go to sleep of like, do I put my phone in the bag and miss a call? Or, but then I'm like, I'm anticipating the call.
I know. Yeah.
And it feels like debilitating because you try to like force the thought out. Yeah. I'm like, well, no, don't think about it. They're fine. They're going to be fine. Yeah. They're going to be fine.
Irrational.
But there's also, and so there's this wrestle. And it is a daily struggle. And I just immediately have to say, Jesus, can you please speak to my mind and say, peace, be still. Yeah. That has been my prayer because it just starts this wave of like anxiety.
Yeah.
And I wish I could say that I had any more like advice or wisdom, but I just don't. But as far as deep loss goes, obviously, I was really close with my grandfather, and he moved to California 20-something years ago, and I wept like a baby because I was so close to him. He was the grandparent that I was the closest with, and just an extremely lovable guy. So that was a great loss, but I'm in the middle of it still not feeling real because I haven't had to meet a time, which would have been Thanksgiving for me this year, where I would have seen them. So still kind of not there yet, you know?
Yes.
But I will say the last time I can remember really grieving was when my now husband and I broke up for the second time. Which there's a whole other episode. We'll talk about our saga. But that second time that we broke up, it was after the pandemic. We got through the whole pandemic together. We're planning on getting married. And then everything came crumbling down. And it was rough. It was rough. I ended up like seeing a therapist, and I felt ridiculous. Okay, I won't say I felt ridiculous. I knew my pain was real, but I loved him I love him so much, but I'm speaking of, of past tense. And I had we were just, it didn't make sense to me. Yeah. And I remember being in the Psalms every day and it was just dark. And I think the hardest, it's one thing to grieve someone who's passed on, but to grieve someone who's still alive, oh my goodness. Yes. I don't wish someone that you really love and we didn't end on bad terms. Yeah. It just was, but it was rough. Wow. And I just remember daily, I had a whole playlist, y'all, called full of, I found this girl, which shout out to this girl named Tiffany Hogle. She was a Christian girl that I was following all through her single girl, saved single girl era. She just was amazing. She was she would post poetry, fun things that she was just a fun person to follow. And I remember her, she had this little highlight thing on her Instagram that said great albums for a breakup. And they were all Christian. Yes, please. Yeah, and most of them were Christian albums, but either by Christian artists or even worship. And I remember I downloaded every single album and had it on repeat. I had to delete all the songs that Ryan and I listened to when we were together. I had to delete photos, which I ended up saving a couple thanks to my mom. It ended up being on our save the date. Thank God. But just having to buy, it took steps to get there. I remember being okay, am I even ready to face the photos? Because I had to. It was awful. It was awful. But what was so sweet about that season, and I know that this sounds, I don't care if it sounds cliche, it's real, it's reality. The way I got so close to the word and to the Lord, being in the scriptures and knowing that he really does provide the comfort, so beautiful. There seriously is beauty in every season. And I do have that to hold on to, even as I think of the stuff that we don't want to think about. But that was 2 years. It was a 2-year process, and it was rough.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. That's such a great point of grieving people that are relationships that are even people still alive, but it's grieving that kind of thing. Yeah.
At any moment you feel why am I'm grieving them, but they're alive. So I could just call them, but you can't. Because then you're, and so.
Well, especially, in your situation. You're no. Yeah, no, that was actually my main point of grief is not exactly that, not a breakup. It's people who have moved away. Yeah. Or that we live far from. So my husband's from Jersey, so some of his family is in Jersey, and now they're having a baby. So there's that heartbreak. And then there's some family who lives in Buffalo, New York, and they have a baby, and they're having another baby. And then there's my brother who moved to California. And so, talk about avoidance. Yeah. Jay and I, for a while, have just been okay, what are we going to do? Where is the Lord going to lead us? Are we going to stay in Michigan? Are we going to move closer? And it was such a it still is a heavy weight, but it was just very different because it was theory. It was, are we going to? Are we going to buy a house here? Are we going to buy a house there? And we obviously ended up buying a house here. And the hard part about our reality is no matter where we are to go, we're still going to be apart from like the same amount of people.
Right.
So it wasn't like this clear, oh, well, if we move in this area, then we have, 5 of them. It's literally like you're broken from all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I feel that regularly.
Yep.
And I think I'm like, I avoided it for a really long time and really kind of backing it up a little bit. So I was finishing out my master's degree, and Jay and I wanted to start trying for a kid. And at that time, my brother lived here. I think my sister-in-law still lived here too. And then 2 of my best friends lived here. So I had it made. I literally had so many people.
Yeah.
Yes, we still had quite a few, like a lot of his family that was far away. But in my mind, I was envisioning, okay, I'm going to finish my master's. We're going to have a baby. We're going to have like all of these wonderful people around. And then just like slowly, bit by bit, my sister-in-law moved. Then one of my best friends moved. Then my other best friend moved. And then my brother moved. And I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then like I have the baby, and then it's like all this postpartum like hormones, and it was rough for a long time. And it still is. Like it's still really hard for me. It just sucks.
Yeah.
There's no good way to say it. But I think I went through just kind of avoiding the thought for so long and just feeling really lonely. Like really, really lonely. And
Oh my gosh.
then finally starting to, I think, just realize, okay, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Like I can't change what has happened, and people are going to live their lives and they're going to make choices, and I have to figure out how to just accept what it is and know that I'm going to see, this family member once a year. I'm going to see this family member once a year. I'm going to see this friend maybe a couple times a year. And it is so not ideal.
I know.
But I'm like learning. I think I'm learning to figure out how to, live with that and like live life to the fullest with those things.
Embracing the new reality.
Embracing it, yeah.
And it sounds like what you described so perfectly is grieving your expectations and desires. So it is like grieving a person, but it's even more the ideas you had for what this season of life would be for you, right? Or even just desires of like building a family or like your timeline and what you picture. And you're grieving the picture you had in your head of what things would look like for you. And that's a very important layer to this is that aspect of it too. Because even like this question of like grieving a version of yourself, that even had me thinking about, I had a couple friends that moved far away. And I know that feeling. It's so hard, because it's like it changes, it shifts everything, and like the dynamic of the relationship and there's the stages of grief, and I feel like you kind of described going through, like, I don't know them all.
Acceptance,
like, there's like
denial.
I've been there, man. I just skimmed over those. Those
but
were
it was
very
there,
real.
And they can happen at different times for different people. Like, they have them in order, but like they can be all over the place.
Like different things can bring out anger at times, and then and I think there's just.
And I'm still dealing with, it's like layered, right?
There's
like it comes and goes.
Yes.
And I'm not like, woohoo, I'm accepting. I'm like, no, I'm still angry at times. I still like the beginning of this conversation, I'm thinking about my brother. And I'm like, oh my God, I
missing
could weep.
him. And
So it comes and goes.
But I think the important thing to kind of like, what I think about with that is like, it's not about doing it perfectly. Because the reality is like we're gonna grieve in this life. We are gonna experience suffering. We're gonna experience disappointment, deep disappointment, loss. That like painful heart. Like we're gonna experience that. And how do you do that in a way that is healthy? How do you do that in a way that's glorifying to God? I think you got to go through it. I don't think there's like a perfect way. Like I never get angry. I never, want to just like curse. I never like, no, I think it's like, it's very important to acknowledge that those are okay feelings to have. I mean, if we look at people who experience sorrow in the Bible and people who experience grief, like we look at Job, like he's such a great example of someone who experienced, I mean,
Jesus.
I know. There's Jesus. Yes. Yes.
You know
he
what?
wept. Yes.
You were talking about like just changes and seasons and moving, and like you're talking about the expectation. It took me a while to realize that with all change comes grief. So even good change brings grief. And I think earlier in life, I would think of grief as just losing someone. Like you're grieving someone, a pet, a family member. But as I got older and like, like when you get in your late 20s, 30s, things start changing real quick.
Yeah.
You start changing, friends are moving, careers, a lot of stuff is changing real fast.
Yeah.
And I remember going through this like season of it felt just, I won't say dark, but dim. And I was like, I can't put my finger on why I don't feel like a lot of joy. But I think it was because there was so much change constantly happening. And in my own life and then in the people around me, that everything had been the same for so long. Like people you went to college with, that's 4 solid years. And then like most of you might stay in the same city if you guys are, went to school in the same state, things like that. So like for a good solid 8 to 10 years, everything was kind of the same. Yeah. Like you get in this rhythm of like, we're hanging out this weekend, we're celebrating birthdays together, all that stuff. Yeah. And then like sporadically out of nowhere, there was this like spitfire of like every 6 months, something would change. And in the midst of the season with like when Ryan and I were broken up, a plethora of things were changing. And like just recently, I started a new job 3 years ago, and within 6 months, everything changed. And like you grieve change even when it's unexpected, out of your control, or even good. Like I'm trying to think of an example. There was an example I had where something changed and it was a good thing. Oh, getting married. How long was I ready to like for marriage and like starting a family? And like the minute things started sinking in, I was like, holy crap, everything's changing.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing, but like, oh my gosh, things are different.
Yep.
And again, like the only thing constant in life is change. So if the only thing constant in life is change, and with all change comes grief, that tells me that we're always going to be at some level of grieving.
Yeah, well,
I don't like what you're saying.
Sorry,
I don't like it either.
I know this
But
is not.
With every change came the grief, but then on the other side, it came the blessing.
There we go.
Right?
Yes. Thank you for
which is, I know what you're getting. Like, that is totally true. Like you wouldn't be able to experience the joy of being married to Ryan
if there were change.
Exactly. If there was, so then you had to grieve your single life and the life you had before him, and then you replace that with the blessing of, and even this thing of like dying to self. Like there's different versions of ourselves that have to die for the other part to be born.
Yes.
So I think about how when I was same thing. When I was getting married, it was like barely 20. It's ridiculous, but I was so young and I was still very much a child. So I remember like that night, my parents were going to move to Texas like the next day or like, and I remember being so sad. Even before that, we were moving stuff into Garrett's apartment before we got married. And I remember just like crying with my mom being like, I'm going to live here with this man.
You're
going to leave me here?
Yeah.
But then
Is this allowed?
but no, it was great. I loved it. But it was like that.
No, it's real.
And even the night of our wedding, like it's supposed to be like you're so excited, it's so awesome. But I remember just being like crying again with my mom. I'm gonna miss you.
Yeah.
Like this chapter's closing. Like you are still gonna be there, but it's gonna be different. You're gonna be far away. And I remember being like feeling those feelings of like grief of I wanted my mom to be close. I wanted my family to be close, but I had no control over my dad's job and where they were going to be and stuff. So that was constantly a battle, you know? And then we get pregnant. And we didn't even want, like we had our own timeline and it happened what it did. And I remember going through that, oh my gosh, everything's going to change. And then baby comes, praise God, blessing. But I'm sitting there and I'm just like with my friend Lindsay and I'm just crying. And she goes, and she's an empath, right? So she's just like crying with me. And she was the one that gave me the language of like, there's a grief that is present, especially even postpartum, because you're grieving your old self.
Yeah.
And it was good language for me to have.
Right.
You almost felt guilty saying it because you're like, I shouldn't feel that way. I should just feel so happy and grateful that I have this baby. But why do I also feel so, I was grieving like even just the reality of being able to take a shower when I want, or like, like it's my real. I remember grieving what my relationship with Garrett was.
Yep.
Because I'm like, it's no longer just us. And like, I can't give you the time that, but I'm also so thankful and so grateful. And it awakened new things in our relationship. So it's complex.
Yeah.
And then you're going through this process and there's constantly, and I think whole nother layers, like as Christians, we are called to, be transformed by the renewal of our mind. There is a process of that sanctification. And so we're constantly dying to ourselves, right? Like there's aspects of ourselves that the Lord is putting to sleep, putting to death. And then he's resurrecting new things. He's bringing new life. And so there's constantly that wrestling of, that reality and like living in that. So you're right. Like grief is just such an ever-present part of life. It totally is. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can 100% relate to that. That was the other major, I feel like the major forms of grief that I have had are what I already talked about. Friends and family moving away. And then, don't get me wrong, I did grieve my dog hardcore for a period of time.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. This was a long time ago. We were married and it was like we had several dogs, but yeah, I know that was real. Literally like sobbing at night. Yeah. And I was like, Jay, I don't know how I'm going to make it through this.
Oh no.
I made it through though. But anyway, so I think also, gosh, having my daughter 100% like intense grief. And I think we were married for 8 years before we had her. And so I think no matter what, there's a level of grief of like your old marriage, right? And actually going back, grieving my single self was huge. That was a really big thing for me as well. And just like the complete freedom that I had, and then that shifted. But the more fresh one is having my daughter. And it was hard because for the first like probably 3 or 4 months, I was just also way more hormonal. My hormones were all over the place. And we had so long together. And we did so much, so many memories that it's like you, I was in love with her. But yet I was like struck to the heart that I was like, we can't even do what we've always done. Like, what does life even look like? Like, even I would look on our fridge, I have pictures of all these trips that we've been on together, and it would just make me cry because I'm like, we're never going to have that. And literally on the way here, I was listening to Lilo and Stitch, and we went to Hawaii, and we literally just played it all the time on the drive, like from place to place. And I was like, oh my gosh, this makes me so sad, but grateful for that trip, because I'm like, we're never, ever going to have that again. Like, yes, we can go on a trip alone together, but it's never going to be without our daughter. Like, we're never going to be able to not think about her or have her with us. Yeah. And I was just like, wow, same thing. Like, our relationship, his and my relationship changed. The capacity that I had for him changed. All of it changed. And I think it's so good too in those moments to remember that I don't know if you can relate to this, but the real difficulty is like in the first days. Like, those first 4 months were just like,
for sure.
Yeah, all the hardships. So it still has many difficulties, but a lot of the grief with like it was grieving our marriage, it was grieving our lifestyle, and everything changed, you know, like my relationships with my friends has changed. My relationship with my family has changed, with my husband, with my parents. Like a lot of it is beautiful and new, but a lot of it is like, wow, man, I just miss the days when me and my girls could just like have a girls' night and I didn't have to think about, well, what time do I have to put my daughter down and is it going to work? And
Totally.
So,
I remember talking to my friend Leah, good friend of mine, really monumental in just like my discipleship journey. And I was leaving a hotel that I had been staying in for like a job for several days. And I loved this hotel. Loved it. Like, I loved it so much. Like, I unpacked my suitcase, put things in the drawer.
That's how you know.
You know? Hung things up.
You're like, I feel like this dresser's clean.
Exactly. Yes. And I was like chatting with her on the drive home. We're like pen pals through voice notes. She lives in Texas. And I was sending her a message and I was just like, I don't know if I'm just uber emotional, like to the core of who I am or what this means. But I left the hotel. As I was packing the hotel room up, I was like getting sad. And I was looking like, I lived here for 5 days, right? And it sounded silly, but she, again, helped put language to it. She's like, I think, and even scripturally, like we know, like we all long for something that lasts forever. And the reason why we grieve when things end or change, because technically when things change, something else has ended or is transitioned. But like, it is just a constant reminder, if you're tapped into this like reality, that there's just a steady impermanence of life. So even me like just leaving the hotel room being like, okay, this little 5-day chapter has closed. Like our spirits long for something that is forever. And that's what the Bible says, that he has placed eternity in our hearts. And so I think that even when the changes and things are ending, like I'm sad when we're done hanging out together. I'm like, oh man, like, you know, like there's just this constant longing for things that we enjoy to last forever.
So true. For sure.
And the good news is one day we're going to step into that. But until then, just there's a constant ending always, you know.
Yeah.
You know, this is kind of a side step to the conversation, but while we're on it, Jay and I were just talking about this the other day and like eternity, right? Heaven. And it's something that actually for quite a while now, a long time before we were married, started like I would literally wake up in the middle of the night with like anxiety thinking about eternity because my mind just couldn't handle this thought of like, what do you mean? Nothing. It's not going to ever end. Like it just freaks me out. And it still does. It still freaks me out. But we were just talking the other day about feeling guilty for not looking forward to heaven more and being like, I think like we're both so grateful for what we have. We're so, like I said, neither of us have lost, we have lost people in our lives. But we haven't lost moms, dads, siblings, right? Like really, really tight-knit people. And we've been very blessed. We've been together for a long time. We have a healthy daughter, you know? There's so much we love. We love being married to one another. And like the concept of not being married to one another, like freaks us out. So it's just like this odd thing that we both really wrestle with of being like, wow, we both know that it's going to be the best thing ever.
Right.
And like that, the peace and just being in the presence of the Lord and him knowing us and being known is beautiful.
Sure.
And there are moments when I really look forward to it. But I think more often it actually scares me, this thought of eternity. And I think it's like grieving the world we live in, which is such a nasty, broken world. But like because I'm so blessed with good things,
we can't even fathom it, right?
Yeah.
Like the fact that I'm sure if we had that eternal perspective, truly, we would look back and be like, oh my goodness, the things that we were clinging on to, we had no idea. Like 1 Corinthians 2:9, we can't even imagine what God had in store
seriously
for us.
Yeah.
You know, and it says you can't no eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for those who love him.
Yeah.
So we cannot.
Can't even.
You could try.
Yes.
But then,
Yeah.
it's like we just get like a sample
Yeah.
of his goodness in this life. We get a sample of that kind of love and the capacity to experience his grace. We get this is the sample. Like any good thing we have is like the
down
trial
payment.
error. Not trial error. What?
I know
The
what you mean.
trial version of like his goodness. So it is. We can't wrap our heads around it.
I think that
no, that's good.
everyone deals with that, like as a believer, like knowing that we can't grasp it, or else it wouldn't be so. If our little minds could really truly grasp what eternity without pain, suffering, not being me, like all those things that we even like, if we could, then would it really be that big? But I think God knew we would do that because he's like, do not love the things of this world.
Yeah.
And that includes our family
Yeah.
and that includes the blessings and that includes all of that. And it's like,
Right.
not saying don't love and appreciate it. He means like, don't fixate on it to a point where it is like, where we're just kind of like, oh, let's just like
We're
say,
living for this
yeah,
life
we're not living
only.
exactly.
Yeah,
Holding on to
right.
and idolizing.
When he has so much more, like I remember a preacher taking like a string and it was like supposed to signify like a never ending string, and that's time. And then this like tiny dot is
our
like
life.
where our life is.
Yeah.
So in our finite minds, like we're there and like
Yep.
this is our whole world.
Yeah.
And he's like cute. But not but he's not though. He actually what's so cool is he actually does like what's so cool about God is he does empathize with us. Like he does not only that, like he came down, met us at eye level, like he experienced it too. So it doesn't like it's not like he just looks like he doesn't minimize even the grief we feel on this side of heaven. He experienced it himself in flesh and blood. Like he experienced it. But there is so much more. There is hope.
Okay, so I started reading this book called Heaven by Randy Alcorn because I used to be like, heaven's about to be so whack and boring. Because, like,
I'm going to be worshiping,
like,
singing
I'm
hymns
just,
for eternity.
Or like, what do I, like, what? It just,
Yeah.
And so I was seeking answers, and I remember being at church and somebody like brought this book up. I went straight to the bookstore, bought the book, still have it to this day. It's like this thick.
Okay.
And I remember just glossing through a couple chapters and being like, oh. And it really shifted my perspective of like what heaven will be like.
Yeah, send that to me.
I will, because I really think it will be helpful. And then also I think that the enemy has just done a great job in the sneakiest way, in the very sneaky way, because like he's like, I'm kind of don't want them to look forward to heaven. So let me really, like, it's so true. It was just sneaky, a sneaky way of getting us to really like, what? Why would we not look forward to something where there's no pain and suffering, crying and like constantly with our maker? Like, but I think again, it's just that
the tactic.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
go.
I'm done.
You go.
I'm gonna send you a book later.
I was just gonna emphasize, yes, it's like putting emphasis on the other things. It's basically idolatry. Like I'm like, I am absolutely idolizing like my marriage over the Lord and my daughter over the Lord and my lifestyle and my comforts. Yeah. Because if I wasn't, it's not that simple. I think there is a lot more to it than lack of understanding of the mystery.
It is
scary.
That's what it is.
Right?
It is terrifying. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just,
and then
I think that the Bible does present more than we've really, like, through this book. And confession, like, this is such a hard thing. I remember in 2024, right before our wedding and our honeymoon, I remember being like, people were like, oh, this is the end of I was like, man, Jesus, can I just like get married and go to Hawaii like before you come back real quick? I mean, it wasn't a real prayer, but it was a thought for sure.
I had the thought. Yeah. So they said the rapture another time. They said the rapture was going to happen like the day after we launched this podcast.
I remember that.
And I literally had like, God, can we at least like launch the podcast first and then
keeping it real?
The dumbest thing ever.
But I mean, but it's
He's amazing.
it's hilarious.
Yeah,
right. And like I remember being like, Jen, you're telling the Lord to wait, withhold is coming, so you can go to Hawaii. Meanwhile, in eternity,
That's when he goes.
your
cute.
backyard is probably gonna look like Hawaii. Like I don't.
I know.
That's literally. That's when he goes cute.
That's cute. I'm not coming yet, but that's cute.
That's
I'm
when
like,
you can do it.
sorry.
Cute. Yes.
Do not love the things
Oh
of
my
this world. Sorry. Okay.
Okay, I don't know how to
It's
segue
tough.
into this thought because that's so funny. Now my brain is thinking about
No,
that.
mine.
But like I had this thought, and like I don't know who's listening to this. Honestly, I don't know if you're.
Natalie
I
is.
think it's Natalie.
Hi, Natalie.
Natalie, shout out. I didn't even know you were Jen's friend. I just thought you were some random person, and it made me so happy. But I'm so happy you're here. If you're here, she's awesome. But no, honestly, I think probably it's most likely going to be Christians that are listening to this. But maybe you're not, and you're here, and you're not a Christian, and so welcome. This is probably a really interesting perspective. I don't know what you think about this, but I will just share this one perspective I got from a person who wasn't a Christian, who's an atheist, and talking about eternity and like our perspective as Christians. And we find that beautiful, right? Like scary, but beautiful, knowing that when we die, we have eternity to look forward to. So that's our perspective, is like, that gives us hope. It like shapes our perspective of life. And I remember talking to a girl who's an atheist, and she described, she's like, no, I'm married, and when we die, it's just done. Like we're just gonna be done, and my life will be done, and there'll be nothing after that. And she described, she's like, I actually think that's really beautiful. That was how she experienced it. And I was like, it was fascinating to hear from somebody who genuinely, that's their perspective, is they actually think that there's the beauty in the fleeting nature of life. Like the fact that a flower will bloom and then wither, and it was beautiful to behold, but it's gone. And that's it. And that's a whole perspective that many have held in existence. And so it's interesting as a Christian listening to that. And like, I understand the sentiment. I understand the romantic nature of that statement. I understand, because I understand how beautiful, I can look at a flower and say, that's really beautiful. And that it's fleeting and I can see it. But I also, and like I said, if you're listening and you're an atheist or you're not a Christian, and that is the belief you hold, like, I say this not to belittle or minimize the beauty of even what was said, but I do think because of the perspective that we hold, I want to acknowledge that from my perspective, like you said, the enemy will want us to think that's it, and to think that's all there is and that's enough, and to settle and be comfortable with that. And while I respect it, from my point of view also, I see it, because I do believe in what the Bible says, and I do believe that we very much have an enemy that wants us not to experience the goodness and the glory of Jesus. I do see that as a tactic of like limiting. Because if someone's settled, if someone's comfortable with that, then they're not going to long for more. Like, he kind of at that point can just be like, my work here is done. And move on. And so I don't know. I just bring that up because it is a whole other worldview that we don't maybe think about. There are many people who don't even care about the afterlife. And that doesn't persuade them. But I think you bringing up that's exactly what the enemy wants to do. I don't know. I just think it's just an
I think I
interesting thought.
would, if I wasn't raised the way I was, I probably would think that way.
Yeah.
Like, I can't really fathom the Lord not in my life and what I'd be like, but I'm like, I'm pretty like a day-to-day person. And so I feel like I would probably be like, yeah, that's it. It is what it is.
Yeah. I think I would be a tree hugger. I mean, I am sure. I would be very much in that. Like, I would be very like, oh yeah, it's like, I don't need to know. Like, there's appeal to me in that mindset.
Yeah.
But
because like we said, there's a lot of like, the mystery is scary. The unknown is scary.
For sure. But it's like, it's so layered, because it's also like, I hear something like that and I'm like, one, you will not experience the love, the beauty, the glory of Jesus on this side of heaven or on the other side, right? So that kind of does make me go, that is sad. And we should, like, I can't look at that, and I hope that and pray that we don't become so desensitized that we can hear something like that and that doesn't actually make us kind of sad, because it's like, now obviously she wasn't thinking like this is sad. She's thinking this is a happy thought. It's a beautiful thought because that's what she's believed about it. And like I said, I understand from that point of view. But as Christians, we can't be so desensitized to hear the narrative of the world, the many narratives that are out there, and then not make us sad. Not only because you're going to miss out on the beauty and goodness, but we do believe that there is a heaven and a hell. And so when I hear that, I have to go, I could be, and honestly, I think I have been desensitized enough where I don't even feel that bad if someone's like, all right, that's the whole belief you hold. If I truly believe everything that the Bible says, then there's that level of like, I should grieve the fact that people that I know and even people I love who don't know Jesus, they're not going to get to experience that saving grace, right?
Yeah.
And that also means that, you know, what awaits them when they die.
Yeah.
I did not realize, even going into this conversation, how many layers of grief and perspectives would come about even just talking about it. But I'm thinking about the person who is at a stage in their life where they're, let's say, in retirement and they're older. And because we're talking about how older people, a lot of times are like, oh, like, okay, eternity. Yeah. But then there are also people who are very, very, they are grieving in that season because they thought it was going to look different. They thought it was going to feel different in that season, you know, and Christians too. If we look at specifically the American culture, we have often we've been given the prescription that our life is meant to we're supposed to be working to live in retirement, right? Like you're going to work your butt off and like give everything to your children, to your career and all that, work. And now relax, you know, like go to Hawaii, go like chill, you know? And the truth is we were never designed to work, relax. You know, even in heaven, we'll have work. You know, like even in heaven, we're going to experience, because it's a good thing. Even in Eden, before the fall, Adam was given a job. I'm not saying that means that every retired person needs to be working. We need to have purpose. And so I think of another layer of grief, because I'm thinking about people that I know who it's a very real pain because there was a beautiful thing that maybe they desired for their life and the picture that they had for their life, and it's not panning out the way that maybe they envisioned. And that's a lot of times you'll see that with empty nesters or even people who've lost, like widows, you know, and people who are, I think about those older people who've lost everyone, like their parents are gone, their siblings are gone, they're like the last living. You know, there's just so many, like we can't fathom it right now. But I think about that person and I go, okay, well, how is the gospel good news to them? Like if you believe, if you're like subscribed to, what messages are you subscribed to? Like we look at subscriptions, okay? Are you subscribed to the gospel, but also subscribed to the American dream and also subscribed to just the world's narratives of what life should be and what will make you happy? And I think a lot of times why we might have these conflictions is because we have too many subscriptions and we need to unsubscribe, you know, a little bit from some of these narratives that are telling us like, your spouse should look this way, your life should look this way, you should be doing these things, and if you're not, then your life isn't worthy, you're not good enough, you're not a good enough Christian, like whatever, you know, it might be. You're gonna get these weird, you know, responses. But the gospel, like if you're, let's say you're listening and you're like in your 50s, let's say you're 70, whatever, and you're feeling like, I haven't done enough. What do I have to look forward to? If I were to die now and I'm going to go meet my maker, like, I'm scared of that because I haven't done enough or my life isn't enough. And it's like, hey, it's okay. It is okay because the gospel is still good news to you. Like it's still, you still, even now, like can experience his grace. Like release that pressure that like you are going to be this one that's going to make this monumental change and do this stuff. Like Jesus did it all already. Like Jesus did it all. And just release that pressure, release that control, and invite the Lord into that to allow healing. And like, it's okay. He holds space. He can hold space for your grief. Acknowledge that you're disappointed. He receives those. It's okay to feel disappointed with where you're at, with what your life looks like right now. But you don't have to stay there. You do not have to stay there. And the enemy wants us to stay there. I think that one of the biggest lies and deceptions that he has given Americans is that the American dream is all that there is. That's the only dream worth pursuing is the American dream. And I just think that's so bogus because sure, it's capitalism, all this stuff is beautiful. We can build this life for ourselves, but it kind of can be anti-gospel at times because it's like, we're not meant to just be living our life for ourselves here. And it's not meant to be just like building these kingdoms for ourselves on earth. Like, I don't know. Now I'm just going on a rant, but please insert yourselves.
I won't say that I have advice for someone who's retired because I have no idea. But
I also might change my mind. Who am I like to speak into it? But I do think about that.
What you're saying is truth, though.
I love that about you.
So I'm like, no, it's actual truth, and I have no idea because I probably will be at that age thinking the same thing. Like, dang it, I should have did more of this. I should have did more of that. But again, something that I read that was really comforting is that if we are talking about an eternal perspective here, which I think is a good kind of a good perspective to have, I think it exposes our pride, like you just said. And if I get to be 70, 80 years old, praise God, and I'm sitting there thinking about all the things that I didn't succeed here, the thing that I read was that, do we think that when we get to an eternal state where we're living in a new kingdom in a new earth, that we won't be able to still pursue those things? Like, I believe there will be music in heaven. Mm-hmm. And if I think I'm 80 and I didn't write enough songs, I got eternity to write songs. But I realized that it was a heart issue for me because I want to write the songs here so I can get the recognition for myself that I wrote them here for, even if I'm writing them unto the Lord. But like, there's just
twisted
a little like back to the American dream. There's like, we want these things for us. I mean, for our families too, but ultimately we do. We want stuff for us. So I don't really know if that answers the question, but it's
I think the answer, I do think, go ahead.
It's a way to bring some type of, I guess, peace.
Perspective.
We're never going to reach the end of our life. Feel like you can reach the end of your life and feel content and happy. Like, look at maybe the legacy you created and all that. But I think that all of us will probably kind of look back and be like, man, I wish I would have even, spent more time or, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But we have a long time to do a lot of things.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Mm-hmm.
In pretty awesome way.
Right.
Unlimited with just
right. Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain it. Yeah.
Expand it. Yeah.
And that is exciting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
No, that's good. I like that perspective.
So but I just had another thought.
Keep going.
I just just going, for some reason I always fixate and I always jump on that of like, as soon as we're talking about the enemy's deception, I find that to be such an important topic because even when we're talking about eternity and I've only studied very little about heaven. I don't know a lot about heaven, but I think it's really cool because you kind of just touched on it. Like, there will come a time in heaven where we will be in heaven. Imagine being able to write songs without writer's block.
Yeah.
Imagine being, if you love running, imagine being able to run without getting tired, knee pain, like all these things. Like imagine being able to create and having endless inspiration because you are before the maker and having all the colors and the tools in the world. Like
imagine that flower not ever dying. The one you talked about earlier.
Not ever dying.
The one that withered, it never dies.
Imagine, being able to plant endless gardens of colors, flowers that are colors that we've never seen and can't fathom. Like there's so much that we can't wrap our heads around. And if we did, I don't think we could function properly.
No.
Like it's just too much. But then going back to the way the enemy, like he wants to, he knows more than we do about what's to come, truthfully. And he does not want us to experience heaven on earth. He doesn't want us to experience heaven outside of earth, after life. He doesn't want us to experience that. So there are so many things that he does, but we have to be, going back before this episode started, just talking about the armor of God, like we have to be so diligent, even as Christians, not to deceive ourselves that we can't fall into this trap of being distracted, desensitized, and then disenchanted. Because what he'll do is he'll come in, I'm going to distract them. I'm going to distract them from seeing even the good in their life, the people in their life that are good. I'm going to instead distract them with the things that help them or get them to fixate on the problems, get them to fixate on the things that they don't like about themselves, about the people in their lives. I'm going to just distract them with this. I'm going to distract them with pacification. I'm going to distract them with food. I'm going to distract them with clothes. I'm going to distract them with all these things that will keep their eyes off of God, keep their eyes off of Jesus, keep them distracted. What happens then when we're distracted? Our armor is down. One, we're vulnerable. Our guards are down, so we're more vulnerable. Now we're in the state of vulnerability where we're like kids in a candy shop, and we're walking around and we're just so enticed by the pleasures of this world, which are very enticing. And so we overindulge ourselves a lot of times. We distract ourselves, we pacify ourselves, that kind of thing. Then what ends up happening over time when we're not connected to the vine, we're not abiding, when our guard is down, we can then over time become desensitized. And I think we're even at a height, it's always been the case, but it's just heightened now with our literal pacifying objects, these phones and social media and all this stuff. And the level of desensitization that happens with the information that we intake and process and don't process. And it's another just layer of a way that I think the enemy desensitizes us to. We literally can watch someone be murdered on our phone, go, wow. And then I'm watching a video of a cat doing something funny and move on. And there's a weird desensitization that happens there. We're just desensitized to the fact that, like, don't make them think about hell. Don't make them think about heaven, but also don't make them think about hell. So they won't care if people they love die and don't know Jesus, right? So there's desensitization. The longer we go to be desensitized, the more vulnerable we become, the less we can receive the truths of the gospel. The less that when we go to church, oh man, this one's hard for me. Then we step into a church. You're desensitized. You step into a church and you're singing these songs, and they're about how much you love Jesus and how much Jesus has done for you in your life and how great he is. And you're like, I don't feel that. And then you feel like a fraud. And then you kind of start to feel like that verse where it says, like, they sing with their mouths, but their hearts are far from me. And then you're like, is that me? Is that me? Is that me? How'd that happen? How did we get here? And so we then become more vulnerable to cynicism, skepticism. It becomes really hard to be a Christian and to walk in church and to do that kind of thing. But we're quiet about it. We don't tell anyone. We just keep going through the motions. And then over time, we become disenchanted. We're like, I don't even know if I believe it all. Or even if I do believe, this is all there is. Like, I can't expect much. I'm going to become, it's not for me, or I go through like a dark night of the soul and I don't process it in a healthy way. And then I come out of it just thinking God has forsaken me. He's not here. either don't believe him or I think that this is all there is, and we settle. Yeah. So, I mean, come on, man. Like, is that not just like one of the greatest like derailments of God's plan for your life, is to just make you under the illusion that you are a Christian and you're walking with him, and yet we can be lukewarm.
So we obviously started this episode just talking about grief, especially with the holidays being around the corner and the reality of some of us are walking through the first maybe holiday without someone. And then it forced us to meditate on the idea of death and the reality of an afterlife. And so we decided we're going to have a part 2. So we'll join you. You'll join us, actually. We won't join you. Well, technically, we'll be in your living rooms. Join us next week for part 2 while we dive deeper.